Joni Mitchell, Don Juan's reckless daughter, right now on States and Kingdoms. Welcome back to States and Kingdoms. Today we're talking about Joni Mitchell's album, Don Juan's Reckless Daughter. And we've done a couple of Joni Mitchell videos recently. We just did Hajira, also known as Hajira.
Hi, Hajira.
I've been saying it wrong for my whole life. Hajira we just did. We did Court and Spark. We've already done
Hissing Summer Lawns. That's it.
That's it.
That's all.
Yeah, so now we're here. And like I mentioned in the last video, this album kind of is the final sort of bookend for my favorite period of Joni Mitchell.
This is a complex album. And, it really is kind of the culmination of everything she had done. That's what it seems, musically, lyrically even. There's just a little bit of everything.
Like every single influence she's ever had.
And another thing, of course, is that she, as a producer, which is something you don't usually hear about.
Talks about.
Her abilities just as a producer. As a music maker altogether, she's really extraordinary. And you hear that on this album. This sounds incredible.
Sounds really good. Really good on vinyl. So good.
This album has what you could consider still folkiness, jazz, a symphonic element.
Yep.
There's improvisation. There's the return of the piano, which is not there on Hajira.
Yeah.
But it also, like the first side, it does seem to follow from Hajira. Like it does seem kind of seamlessly to continue. You have the guitar, bass, drums, maybe some saxophone.
Yeah.
And it seems kind of like that very basic group. But the album, the way it doesn't obviously stay there.
Yeah.
Paprika Plains, which sounds like a Hungarian Super Mario level. It features her playing piano again, improvising, just the whole thing woven together.
Yeah, that song is like sprawling, and it's long, and it goes through all these different changes, and it really, I get the sense of this landscape vibe.
And a dreaminess about it. The lyrics are personal without being confessional. Yeah. They are more like the lyrics on Hissing Summer Lawns. There is a return of characters, of her, observing life around her through, different, characters, really only on one song. But, Otis and Marlena. But, so in a way, it's kind of like the Hissing of Summer Lawns to the umpteenth, degree, and kind of like Hajira. It's just her, just developing everything in like its most expansive way. It's
expansive.
Yeah.
Good word.
The vinyl has, side 1 and 4, which are the sides with the shorter songs for the most part. Yeah, so after side 1, you have to go to the second disc. You can listen to side 2 and 3, and then you go back
to the first
for side 4, which really leaves you open to just skipping Paprika Plains and Otis and Marlena and
I did do that often because
I just blanked out on everything else.
I definitely listened to side 1 and 4 a lot.
Well, it
also because it's just easier. You don't have
leaves
to keep
it open for you to do
it's
that.
like, I'll just and I love all those songs.
What's interesting though, if you do skip from side 1 to 4, which they seem to want you to do, because it's really so easy. They're really, you are missing something. I feels to me like side 4, legitimately needs to come after Paprika Plains and side.
The 10th World. Yeah, no, yeah. The way the actual sequence of the album, the way you're supposed to listen to it is perfect.
Yeah.
Because as you're going through these songs, you're, all these different influences and different sounds and rhythms and things are coming up in the, those middle songs. And then by the last side, when the more, lyrical songs happen again, you kind of have the sense that she's been picking up all these things, and then that's like the final culmination of all of the influences. Is those songs seem to have bits of the rhythms and the drumming and the all the things that kind of happened earlier in the album.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
And I don't think lyrically, but musically, it does. It seems to be a progression from the beginning, and but not. Not in an extremely obvious way, but
no.
Just that if you do skip from 1 to 4, you're missing something that's happening on this album.
I don't think people do that.
Well, not obviously on a CD or anything. You wouldn't.
I imagine people did it accidentally, not paying attention. They just thought like, oh, this is the way it works.
I just think it's funny because there are a few albums that do that, and it's
it throws you off.
Yeah. Well, Otis and Marlena, which is a very kind of classic narrative, from her. Then a fairly long, it was like 6 minutes, rhythmic, kind of Latin song.
Yeah.
To me, it's the only part of the album that, I could live without.
Okay, those are strong words. I understand.
But at the same time, then Dreamland, which is actually kind of my favorite song, doesn't flow as well.
Yeah, because you need
so maybe
10th World to get into Dreamland. 10th World could be a little shorter. It does the end sort of keeps kind of building up steam, and then it kind of just ends. But then it goes into Dreamland perfectly. I love that transition, and the beginning of Dreamland is really great, and that song is so catchy. The rhythm of it and the way she sings is just super catchy.
Yeah. Well, I always like those songs of hers, like Jungle Line, and it's kind of the way she sings it is somewhat akin to that, and I always like that. There was quite the mix of styles on this album, put it that way. You have the kind of jazziness that she had established, in Hissing of Summer Lawns and Hejira, and that there's also a kind of Ravel jazziness. Certainly on Paprika Plains.
Paprika Plains is positively classical, symphonic.
Yeah.
Lovely piano work
and then on there's the Weather Report, kind of Latin stuff on side 3, and then the Silky Veils of Otter, begins with a line, folk line, and there's just everything present on the album.
I always try to go back to when I first listened to something that, upon these more in-depth reviews, I'm often surprised that I didn't question some, do you know what I mean? So when I was listening to this, after listening to some of her other albums, I don't think I thought anything of the fact that all of a sudden there's these drums and these other things, it's just Joni Mitchell doing her thing. I just accept anything.
Well,
I'm well, that's what they were doing then, and that's just how it was.
Well, I think you're prepared for it if you listen to.
Well, yeah, it doesn't come out of left field. It's not the strangest thing.
No, it definitely it's been.
And it's very well integrated. Even how different those songs in the middle really are. The way they flow on the album, I've often thought, if they were mixed up a little bit, with maybe some of the more, narrative songs mixed in with the more rhythmic-y ones. But this actually is very,
I thought that
very
too.
nice.
I thought that too. What if it were a little bit more integrated?
Because it really is you kind
but
of
it actually is.
Yeah. Well,
I think it is.
But you really kind of, you go somewhere else, and you have these almost like you go travel for a minute, and then you come back, and you're different when you come back after your little journey.
And it's sort of like the opposite. It's I don't say the opposite of Hejira, because in Hejira there's a very definite story, autobiographical story happening, and it can also correspond to the music. I think it does. And this is really just musically. There's a journey. I don't hear
lyrically. I've never really put anything together with the lyrics.
But it's very. I mean, obviously, knew some people that listen to Joni Mitchell. They did not follow her here. Certainly understand why. The jazziness and experimental nature, it's certainly very much there. I feel like, sometimes it's like people almost get scared away by that. It's not inaccessible.
No, not at all.
It's very accessible.
No.
Very much so.
I'm not sure what you would expect it to be, but it's not.
Well, no. And like you're saying, certainly if you had listened, The Hissing of Summer Lawns and Hejira, this is really the next step.
Yeah, she had
in
to
a lot
do
of
this.
ways.
She had to do this.
This is a very grand musical statement. It's quite deep. There's a lot to talk about. I would like to actually talk about it again.
We could go way more in depth with a lot of the actual individual songs. It's a double album. We could have done a two-parter.
It's kind of funny when we talk about these albums. I mean, this isn't just any kind of album. When this came out, there had never been anything like this, and that goes for like every album we talk about.
And that goes for you too.
It's an incredible work of art, and the production. I really want to emphasize. The production on her records is incredible. She is listed as sole producer on most of these records. And another talent that she has is always surrounding herself with the right people. And we didn't even mention Jaco Pastorius because I guess it's sort of like the most obvious singer in the world.
I know, we're always saying Jaco and Jaco.
But I mean,
what that adds, it can't be understated. It's such an interesting, seductive sound, and it's so unique.
Yeah.
And it fits her in these songs so perfectly, and I guess she knew that. And something so cool, how ambitious a lot of what she does is, and how successful, but she gives off this air of being so unassuming and so unpretentious. And almost like she's doing these big things, but in almost this casual way.
I know what you mean.
It just feels like, I guess it's just very honest. There's no pretense to it. She's just, exploring things, and she's just that talented.
Interestingly, this is really the last show. I mean, Mingus, but this is the last. That's something totally its own, really. But neither of us have really listened to her music past this.
I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that I didn't get into her 80s albums.
So, we could go through them. And those would be genuine YouTube reaction videos.
Well,
we'd be like, oh.
What?
I had no idea. My first time listening to the Beatles.
Yeah.
First time I've seen the sun.
I cried.
All right, anyway. Yeah, we should do that.
Thank you so much for watching our video about Joni Mitchell's Don Juan's Reckless Daughter. Please make sure to leave a comment, let us know what you think, and like and subscribe, and stay tuned here at States and Kingdoms for more videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We will see you next time.